All hell is breaking loose as Russia has entered Donald Trump's war against Iran in a big way. Russia ain't hiding the fact that it has been sending drones to Iran along with satellite imagery, targeting data, and intelligence support that has been crippling to the United States. And Vladimir Putin and Lavrov and Yushakov and Dmitriev, the crew that keeps on meeting with Witkoff and Kushner, who keep getting more concessions out of the United States, they're out there bragging and boasting that the United States military bases throughout the Middle East have been obliterated. You want to use the word obliterated, Donald? New York Times is reporting how Iran just wrecked all of America's Gulf bases. Kuwait gutted with collapsed roofs and smashed radar. 17 U.S. sites have been hit in the Middle East region. $800 million or more in damage in weeks. Our troops have basically abandoned all of the American military bases in the Middle East. May I repeat that? Our troops have abandoned basically all of the military bases in the Middle East, and now they are working remotely from hotels while Iran is utilizing a spy network to try to find which hotels U.S. troops are at to target those hotels. As Anthony Scaramucci writes, a forever basing empire is a $1 trillion liability. Time for a lean Navy over the horizon posture before the next war bleeds us dry. The next war, Anthony, how about this right here? I mean, I'll throw up this B-roll right here. You want to see how they are developing or have already developed the military of the future in China right here with these drone swarms. You see, unlike the United States that has continued to build these outdated THAAD and Patriot systems, which we forced on and pushed on the Middle East allies and others, these drone swarms and the drone interceptors, because that's how wars are fought now in 2026, have been perfected by China. And China has been boasting and bragging throughout this entire week by showing these videos about just how successful their preparedness is for the battle of the future. Just take a look at this New York Times article, though, about how successful Russia has been at transferring this data to Iran to target these American bases, while Donald Trump continues to be a Putin bootlicker publicly. Now, the New York Times doesn't say, oh, well, Russia gave these coordinates. Just put together the Financial Times story about Russia just announcing that it's doing this, and the New York Times story, and it's obvious what is taking place right here. Just take a look right here at what the New York Times article says. Many of the 13 military bases in the region used by American troops are all but uninhabitable. Iran has bombed U.S. bases across the Middle East in retaliation for the U.S.-Israeli war, forcing many American troops to relocate to hotels and office spaces throughout the region, according to military personnel and American officials. By the way, this is leaking out because our commanders, our military leaders in the Middle East are trying to send messages back home for us to hear them. What a freaking disaster this war is. We hear you. We know the message you're trying to send. That's why we're making a video about it right here to educate the people how Donald Trump has thrown you all under the bus and now you're all in hiding in hotels. Should be a pretty big story, right? And all our military bases are abandoned right now and our soldiers and troops are hiding in hotels. So now much of the land-based military is in essence fighting the war while working remotely, with the exception of fighter pilots and crews operating and maintaining war plans and conducting strikes. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has urged people to report these new locations as it hunts for the dispersed troops. U.S. military officials say that the threat is not stopping the Pentagon from carrying out the war against Iran, which is in its fourth week. Many of the 13 military bases in the region used by American troops are all but uninhabitable, with the ones in Kuwait, which is next door to Iran, suffering perhaps the most damage. 6 U.S. service members were killed in a strike on Port Shuaba that destroyed an Army Tactical Operations Center. Iranian drones and missiles also targeted the Ali al-Salam airbase, damaging aircraft structure and injuring personnel at Camp Buring, damaging maintenance and fuel facilities. In Qatar, Iran struck the Al Udeid Air Base, the regional air headquarters of U.S. Central Command, damaging an early warning radar system. In Bahrain, a one-way Iranian attack drone struck communications equipment at the headquarters of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. At Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, Iranian missiles and drones damaged communications equipment and several refueling tankers. And folks, this data, these strike targets, these resources are coming from Russia. By the way, you know who was saying it? The foreign minister of Iran 3 weeks ago, Araghchi. He was asked, remember I showed you the clip? Who is helping you? China and Russia. You sure? Yes. What are they doing? Militarily, economically, politically. The guy said it out loud. Well, I appreciate that the Financial Times is reporting about it now. He said it 3 weeks ago. That's what I was talking about here. So, according to the Financial Times, citing officials briefed on the matter, Russia is sending these phased shipment of drones, medicine, and food to Iran. The deliveries began early March. They're continuing to right now. As John M. Lariar explains, this is notable because earlier yesterday, news broke that Israel struck a key node for the Russo-Iranian trade networks, the Bandar Anzali port on the Caspian Sea, striking C2 hubs, warships, and shipyard infrastructure. By the way, take a look at the map, though, where the Caspian Sea is. You'll see it's like right there between Iran and Russia. So it's right. We've been focusing on the Strait of Hormuz and the Persian Gulf, right? You go a little bit more west, and that's where you have the Red Sea. But you go a little bit more north, and you have the Caspian Sea right there, right? And that's that sea essentially connecting Iran with Russia. So in the past 24 hours, we saw Israel striking ships in the Caspian Sea. Why? Because Russia has been giving Iran all of these weapons. I believe China has been as well, but I think there's a more reluctance to strike at China right now. So when I say the world is literally in a war right now, whether you choose to call that a world war or not, can we observe what is actually happening? I'll give you more data points on that as well. Additionally, to those who think that Russia sending drones back to Iran is foolish due to Iran being the original producer of the Shahed drones, wrong. Russia has onshored production for much of its Shahed supply during the ongoing Russian-Ukrainian war, and such measures have allowed them to produce and field Shaheds at a massive scale. So you know how like car companies, right? Like Japanese car companies, right? They have factories in the United States. There are Toyota plants and Hyundai plants, right? There are Shahed drone plants in Russia where they manufacture these. So when the U.S. is striking the Shahed drone plants, say in Iran, they're being brought over through the Caspian Sea from Russia to Iran. And also Iran keeps a lot of its Shaheds underground in these structures that almost look like super malls, but they're underground. And that's where Iran keeps its ballistic missiles and Shahed drones. So it's just worth mentioning that as well. Meanwhile, in the past 24 hours, President Zelensky, who courageously, heroically, and against all odds, continues a strong counteroffensive against Russia, keeping Ukraine safe. They've developed such incredible drone interceptor technology in Ukraine, their own proprietary stuff. Drone interceptors use drones to intercept drones. They also have this like netting systems. It's really complex and complicated. And they have the intellectual know-how to work these radars against these Shaheds and the ballistic missiles better than anyone else in the world. And one of the things that Zelensky's saying is, hello, we know this for a fact that Russia sought to blackmail the United States by offering to stop sharing military intelligence with Iran if Washington cut off Ukraine from any of its intelligence. Zelensky says, I have reports from our intelligence services showing Russia is doing just that. But again, at every step of the way, Donald Trump J.D. Vance, the whole Trump regime keeps rewarding Russia, right? You have the fact that Witkoff and Kushner keep on meeting with Yushakov and Dmitriev. Donald Trump continues to blame Zelensky and not Putin for Putin's war against Ukraine, right? You have Donald Trump and his despicable regime removing sanctions from Russian oil. Russia's been able to make billions and billions of dollars and revive its economy that was teetering.
Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. As someone with a very active online presence, privacy is so important to me. And when you spend as much time online as I do, you start realizing how much of your personal information about you is just floating around out there. Your name, contact info, home address, even details about family members can be compiled by data brokers and sold online. Your data is basically a commodity and anyone on the web can buy your private details. That's why I love using Delete Me. Their team works to remove your personal data from hundreds of data broker websites, which helps you protect yourself from things like identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. And they're highly trusted too. The New York Times Wirecutter has named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and use promo code Meidas at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/Meidas and enter code Meidas at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/Meidas, code Meidas, MEIDAS.
And then you have J.D. Vance being sent by Donald Trump to Hungary April 7th and 8th to try to prop up Viktor Orban in Hungary, the right-wing authoritarian who is a Putin puppet put there to destroy the European Union. Now, if you look at the Hungary elections coming up pretty soon, those elections are set for April 12th, right? J.D. Vance making the final pitch for Putin's guy in Hungary. Look at the polling right now where the Tyza party, which is the pro-democracy party, is beating the Fidesz party. The Fidesz is Orban's party. The Tyza party is the pro-democracy, pro-EU party, as Michael Weiss points out. So if Orban tries to steal this, and he almost certainly will, it'll be Euromaidan on steroids in an EU NATO country. Watch closely, America, because Tyza party has widened its lead over Orban's Fidesz to 23 points among decided voters. So Orban and Putin are going to pull some stunt, the same thing that Donald Trump's going to try to do in the midterms here. Focus a lot on what's happening there. It has these international repercussions. But the broader point I want to make is our military bases in the Middle East have actually been obliterated with the help of Russia to Iran, and we're out there helping Russia. So when Donald Trump's like, Russia, 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 do we see the damage that Russia has inflicted? We've been eviscerated in the Middle East in terms of our military bases. You also have Russia mocking the social media posts that have been made by Donald Trump. So RT, which is Russia's propaganda, this is what they post. White House mistakenly posts nuke launching soon. What the FUCK are you tweeting? That's what Russian propaganda. They're mocking Trump because Trump's White House posted a cryptic video that makes like a ding. This is a real post on the Instagram and other social media channels like X, formerly Twitter, of the White House. Play this clip. And here's this other strange video posted by the White House that Russia was calling out and saying, what the F is this? Here, play this clip.
So cool. It's launching soon, right?
Yeah, what are we doing? What the hell is going on with our country? I mean, seriously, what the hell is going on? Who are these people running our country? They're running it into the ground. Not sure if you knew about this, but yesterday, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution on the enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity. 123 countries voted in favor to say that, yes, enslavement of Africans was one of the greatest crimes against humanity. But the US, Israel, and Argentina were the only countries that voted against it. US, Israel, and Argentina voted against the idea that enslavement of Africans was the gravest crime against humanity. That's just a random thing that happened in the day yesterday. As I've been talking about on other videos as well, the United States military base in Erbil, Iraq, also one of those bases that have been constantly under attack. Also, the U.S. embassies there constantly under attack. And so the U.S. has been striking Shiite militia groups in Iraq, but these Shiite militia groups are closely linked to the government in Iraq and part of the Iraqi army. And so it's interesting because you have Islamic resistance groups with part of these militias who are attached to the Iraqi army, because there's a very there's this tapestry holding it all together with all of the sectarian violence and history in these countries. It's any straw that breaks the camel's back can lead to all-out war, all hell breaking loose, if you will. So now the Islamic resistance in Iraq is carrying out multiple operations against U.S. bases over the past 24 hours using dozens of drones and posting these drone swarms attacking U.S. bases in the region after the United States killed 7 Iraqi soldiers and wounding 13 at a military clinic in other areas, where the U.S. and then the U.S. on a separate day killed 15 PMF fighters, including their commander Saad al-Balji. And Iraqi officials say that 80 security personnel have been killed and 150 have been wounded. Especially some of this was taking place during a ceasefire. So here you'll see this video right here. The Iraqi militias firing at the U.S. Essentially war. There's a war in Iraq again right now. War in Iran, war in Iraq, war in the Caspian Sea. Putin's invaded Ukraine. I mean, there's war all over. War in Lebanon, right? Israel's essentially invaded Lebanon, destroyed all of southern Beirut, blew up all the suburbs, blew up hospitals there. They said they're targeting Hezbollah, but they're killing lots of innocent people there as well. I think it's important that we reflect again on just what's happening here, internationally. You have this joint statement that was issued by KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, condemning Iranian attacks and calling on the Iraqi government to stop militias attacking their countries. It's a direct message to the Iraqi government to take responsibility for the action of militias in Iraq. But Iraq has now authorized its militias to go and attack American bases. And now these other countries are basically saying, Iraq, control your militias. And Iraq saying, no, America hit them. They can hit back. They're allowed to strike back. And so now you have, again, Iran and Iraq against Saudi Arabia, UAE. I mean, it's a mess. You see what's happening in the region. You see why it's important that we really specifically talk about these things that are happening, not to mention the ground invasion planned on the Karg Island by the United States. We know how dangerous that's going to be. Lots of people are predicting there will be mass casualties, mass slaughter of U.S. troops if we send this ground invasion on the Karg Island. It will be brutal and bloody and just overall horrible. And I hope that doesn't happen, but it seems that we're moving closer and closer to that ground invasion. And meanwhile, you take a look at what's happening in France. So France is holding a video conference with its own army chiefs to see if France can create its own alliances right now to try to deal with the Strait of Hormuz on its own without the United States. No one views the United States as being anywhere reliable anymore. I mean, and just think about the cruelty of the United States, just stuff like this that's happening. U.S. weighs making life-saving HIV treatment conditional in order to access Zambia's minerals. The Trump administration is negotiating a deal that ties funding for HIV treatment for over 1 million people in Zambia to access critical minerals, linking survival to geopolitical leverage. We're about to all of our friends in Australia. More than 500 service stations across Australia's 2 largest states have run out of gas or diesel as the Hormuz closure fuel crisis worsens. So what is it? Roughly 13% of stations in South Wales have run out of diesel, with diesel supplies being hit the hardest. Right? I mean, everywhere. The U.S. is causing pain and suffering everywhere. In Asia, Taiwan's about to run out of its own liquefied natural gas. We've removed the THAAD and Patriot systems from South Korea. We've taken troops out of Japan. I mean, it's been just the biggest betrayal of America to the world, the weakest America's ever been in its history right now. The world, I would say, laughing at the U.S., but it's actually horrified at the U.S. Horrified. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching. I know these are very detailed and there's a lot I pack into these videos, but it's important that we know what's going on, okay? Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to add the MeidasTouch podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new updates every single day.